Well, um, do we think that we have folks that have uh, not sent regrets? Who do we have? Carrie?
Yeah, so as of right now, we are waiting on possibly well, Harry should be back, and
Yeah.
then Natalie Senyuk, sorry, not Natalie Green, Natalie Senyuk. I haven't heard either way if she's coming or not. Um,
Erica's with us. Yeah,
yep,
Erica's there.
and
So
Joe,
by
and
my
yeah, and
count,
Harry did say he was going to be back. Sorry, Grant.
no, I was going to say by my count, we need 6 + 1, 7 members, not including Chair Johnson, who's ex officio. So we're not quite there yet.
Nope, not yet.
We'll give it a few minutes.
Hi, John. Hi, Natalie.
Brenda, how are you?
Rebecca's here.
Just, we do have a few things that are time sensitive, so it's just one. We could postpone things, but not really. Well, how about we give folks another few minutes?
Yeah, like I said, a few of them just came in the last hour or so. So
Yeah, let's do
hopefully,
that.
if we have Natalie Senyuk show up, then I think we're okay.
Come on, Natalie.
Yay, Natalie! I think she just popped in. Yep, she's here. Wonderful.
I made it.
You saved us from quorum, or from not having quorum.
We're all so excited to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a while. We just moved a couple of weeks ago, so we're finally settling into a new house.
Oh, that's a challenge. Moving is always so much fun. Okay, Carrie, so that is it then for who we're expecting, I believe?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay, well, we will begin then. Get started so that we can get through the agenda. We'll call this to order and I'll ask Grant to do the roll call, please.
Thank you very much. We have Chair Oblak. I believe we're missing Michael Kozlarek. Joseph Schonberger is here. Yes. Harry Korosis.
Here.
Jonathan Musso.
John will be arriving late. He said he'll be here around 5:45.
Okay, Cindy Lee Eckerflag. No. Kelsey Huxley. And I think Erica Fernie is here.
She was.
She was. I think she's the grayed out screen, but they will come
Yes.
back. Natalie Senyuk.
Here.
There she is, yes. And Donna Speranzini is not here. John Arians is here. And Dion Kelly.
Great.
Here.
Wonderful. Okay. And there's Dion. Hi, Dion. I know Dion's been coming and going, so hopefully things will behave themselves. It's always a bit of a challenge. So thank you, Grant, and we'll move on to approval of the agenda. As in the past, I'll just go through and basically go through my list for movers and seconders. That will move us along a bit more quickly. If you have any opposition to having your name against that when I call out your name, then please let me know. And also just as a housekeeping thing, I guess, I will be asking if you are opposed when we have our movers and seconders on any items, so it just makes it go a bit more quickly than asking all in favor, because I know a lot of folks don't have their cameras on. So please do speak up if you have any opposition against anything that's happening here. Okay, so for our approval of agenda, did we have Kelsey? No. And Cindy Lee and not Don. Okay, John. I'll ask that John move to approve the agenda, and Joe, I'll ask to second. Any opposed? Okay, and so we will move the agenda for October 5th, 2021, MPCA Public Advisory Committee be adopted as presented. I do have to go back and do our acknowledgement. I'm sorry. This is the second meeting and I forgot that I hadn't done it for this one, so please bear with me. The Niagara Peninsula watershed is located on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples dating back countless generations. We want to show our respect for their contributions and recognize the role of treaty making in what is now Ontario. In recognition of National Day for Truth and Reconciliation that occurred on September 30th, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority commemorates the residential school victims, honors the survivors, their families, and their communities. This day is for all Canadians to create bridges with each other for reconciliation. We hope to continue building on our shared responsibility to take care of people, the land, its resources, and all the creatures we share it with. Okay, so moving on to item 2, the declarations of conflict. Does anyone have a conflict of interest? Seeing none, we will move on to the approval of minutes. Minutes of the Public Advisory Committee meeting dated June 17th, 2021. For approval, I will ask that Erica move and Samantha we don't have, that Harry would second. Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, then we will approve the minutes as written. So, correspondence, item 4. We have correspondence dated September 24th, 2021 from Grant, MPCA clerk. Report number FA 56/2021 vaccination policy, and this is for receipt. Chandra is with us, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you. We will ask Chandra just to speak to this, and if there are any questions, then we'll have them directed to Chandra as well.
Chair Black, thank you. I can take any questions. It's pretty straightforward. Every agency in our region following public health guidelines is working towards taking the same approach, including our municipal partners, Hamilton, Niagara, and lower tier municipalities. So basically what this report did was we took the report to the board as a staff report, seeking their direction to develop a vaccination policy and an education program. This is what it is. And because the policy will be impacting our board members and members of Public Advisory Committee if we ever meet on a site location in person in future. So it's here for your information. And once the policy is developed, approved by our governance committee, we will share the policy with the members.
Thank you. Any questions regarding this item? Okay, seeing none, we do need to have the recommendation moved and seconded. I'll ask that Natalie move, and I need to mark my my list better, and that John would second, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So that correspondence dated September 24th, 2021 on vaccination policy be received. Okay, we have other correspondence dated September 24th, 2021, again from Grant, regarding public engagement number 2, results and draft strategic plan. Okay, so Natalie Green is with us, and Natalie will provide a brief verbal update on the results of the second public engagement session for the MPCA strategic plan and see input, excuse me, from PAC members on the draft strategic plan. She will be seeking endorsement. Oh, I'm having trouble tonight, folks. Bear with me. She will be seeking endorsement of the draft strategic plan from the PAC before it goes to MPCA Board of Directors for final approval on October 15th. Ooh, that's not very far away. Okay, I'll pass it over to Natalie. Welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just want to take this opportunity to first thank all of the Public Advisory Committee members for your guidance and your valuable input throughout this entire strategic planning process. I think I have come to every single meeting since September 2020, so we've come full circle now, and it's just been a tremendous team effort from the very beginning, and I can speak on behalf of the entire team. We're very grateful for your input and all of your feedback all the way along. The success that we've had to date is thanks to the incredible collaboration and extensive and diverse input that we've received from across the watershed. As you know, on August the 19th, we hosted a virtual public information session to seek feedback on key components of the draft strategic plan through a moderated Q&A session and via the MPCA's Get Involved online engagement portal until September the 3rd. So from August the 19th to September the 3rd. At the public information session, we had 71 unique viewers with 141 people registered to attend the event. To date, last time I checked, there were 84 recorded session views. So the session was recorded and placed on the portal, and people have viewed it there as well. So if they didn't attend on the 19th, they've been able to watch it afterwards as well. I want to give a special thanks to Chair Oblak and Member Schomburger for attending the information session. Overall, there were some really great questions. Many of them were related to the MPCA's operations rather than specific strategic planning topics, including water quality monitoring, improving relations with the agricultural community, protection of wetlands and buffers, funding sources, development pressures, municipal involvement, and opportunities for youth involvement. Most of the questions were all answered live during the session, and 2 were brought back to staff for follow-up by email, and those were followed up within a week of receiving them. An evaluation of the session was completed by 30% of attendees, and the feedback on the session was quite positive. It received an average rating of 3.8 out of 5 stars, and we did receive some feedback on what people thought they liked and what they thought we could do better. One of them was having a virtual session, which at the time right now we couldn't do too much about. We also accommodated, as you know, non-virtual methods of engagement. So we did offer throughout the strategic planning process, paper surveys, for example, and we did reach out to the people who sent paper surveys and indicated that they wanted to be contacted via regular mail. We did notify them of the virtual public information session and again accommodated those requests as needed. There was one person that did respond to our letter and called and asked for a hard copy of that presentation, which was sent to them. and no further input was received from that person afterwards. I also wanted to note that the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation requested staff at the Department of Consultation and Accommodation requested a meeting with myself and CAO Sharma in September, early September, after the public information session to review and discuss the strategic plan. There were no concerns or disagreement with the strategic goals, actions, or performance indicators that were shared. Also of note, CAO Sharma and Chair Johnson recently met with representatives of the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council and shared knowledge and started to build relationships. During that meeting, some suggestions were made regarding the strategic plan, and those were incorporated into the document as well. I wanted to note that we have prepared, we're just finished it up, an outreach and engagement report, which summarizes all of the efforts and results on our extensive internal and external consultation, which will be presented as an appendix to the, when we're presenting the draft strategic plan to the full authority in just next week, in a few days. On behalf of the MPCA staff, I welcome final input on the draft strategic plan and would like to seek the committee's endorsement before it's presented to the full authority at their October meeting. The draft strategic plan was provided in the meeting package that was sent out by Grant. You've all seen it before, but I just wanted to make a note that this new strategic plan is a critical milestone in our organization's transformation. It reaffirms our commitment to the mandate of conservation authorities and charts the course for the next generation of conservation leadership and continues to address evolving issues of climate change, growth, and the need for green infrastructure. I wanted to note also that there were some slight changes made between when the public sessions were completed and the draft that you're seeing now. We presented it to the Strategic Planning Committee, and we also took some of the feedback that we heard from during the public sessions and made some changes to the goals and a few of the actions as well. So we did listen, we heard, and we made the changes, and that's been common throughout. So thank you so much. I'd like to open it up to questions and of course ask CAO Sharma to add if I've missed anything.
Great, thank you, Natalie. Any questions or comments for Natalie on this? For myself, I'd like to say congratulations. This is a huge amount of work and a lot of consult during a very difficult time. And it's wonderful to see that this is taking shape in a relatively short period of time. When you look at all of the challenges that you have, and the fact that it's a 10-year plan is great to see. I think that that gives you a much better timeline, as long as you have your feedback loops, of course, than trying to develop a shorter plan that sometimes can be disrupted, and then we get to go through the cycle and start all again. So I think it's a good idea to have this extended plan. Any other comments? Okay, well, we will go through then and do the paperwork for recommendation number, excuse me, PAC 23, 2021. I'll ask that Joe will move and Erica will second on that correspondence dated September 24th, 2021, report number SPC 0321. Public engagement number 2 results and draft strategic plan be received, and that the draft strategic plan be endorsed by the MPCA Public Advisory Committee. Any opposed? Everyone's good? Wonderful. Well, thank you very much again, Natalie, and congrats. Big job. I see Carrie. Oh, Carrie's laughing. There you go. I didn't know you could do that. Great, thank you. So we will move on to presentations. Item 5, and we have a PowerPoint presentation. Alicia Powell is joining us, and she is the manager of of conservation area services at the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. Alicia's been coordinating and managing the rollout of the modified Balls Falls Thanksgiving Festival, an annual tradition for the MPCA for the last 47 years, and would like to provide a brief presentation to PAC members about what to expect this year and how they can be involved in the festival should they wish. Welcome, Alicia, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you everyone for making the time to learn a little bit more. We are in the thick of things here at Balls Falls as we get ready for the Thanksgiving Festival that will be running this weekend starting on Friday. So just here to share a little bit with you, as the Chair mentioned. Just wanted to make sure that you're able to see my screen okay.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So we'll just share a little bit of an overview with regards to who is on our festival committee. Of course, the Thanksgiving Festival is in its 47th year. We'll share a little bit about our virtual festival, which closed last evening, our reservation program and system for our in-person event that will be running over the course of the weekend, and our communication strategy, and some consideration for our management team as well as for the PAC members. So the Thanksgiving Festival can't run without the assistance of a wide breadth of NPCA staff and support. So of course, recognizing staff from across our operations department, including Director of Land Management, Adam Christie, Superintendent of Balls Falls Conservation Area, Rob Currit, Assistant Superintendent, Mariah Tempest, and all of our staff at our central workshop that come out to support us. Our customer relations representative, Catherine Orsini, looks after all of our vendors and the administrative tasks associated with our programs and the festival specifically. And we're very appreciative to the support of communications specialist Erica Navarro, and to Carrie, of course, for all of her support in providing outreach and connection to the volunteers that we wouldn't be able to run this program without. Of course, our program assistant here in operations, Jenna Moorhead, is responsible for the heritage and culture and the integration of our village here at Balls Falls into the program, and I look after coordinating the event proper. So last year, as we know, in 2020, we weren't able to hold a traditional Thanksgiving festival. In fact, typically we see up to 30,000 people on the site across the 4 days of the festival, and that just wasn't possible in 2020. So we took it online and we opened a virtual marketplace that we were able to engage many of our returning, known and loved vendors. So going into 2021, we knew that we could bring our virtual festival back, and we ran our virtual marketplace from September 1st until yesterday, until we closed the store last evening. And we had 61 participating online vendors. So craft artisans, unique edible purveyors, some wonderful food vendors as well, selling their items and goods on our marketplace. Folks were able to shop online via our Thanksgiving Festival website and make purchases in advance. So for folks that maybe didn't want to come out to Balls Falls over the busy Thanksgiving weekend, they were still able to shop from favorite vendors online and stop by Balls Falls to the Center for Conservation over the weekend of the festival to contact-free pick up their pre-purchased items. We also knew, in consultation with Town of Lincoln Bylaw and Emergency Risk Management team, as well as Niagara Region Public Health, to whom we are very appreciative for their support and consultation, that we were able to deliver an in-person event this year under the legislation provided by the province of Ontario for events and gatherings. One of the ways that we wanted to control and manage capacity on our site this year was by requiring advanced registration and admission to the festival. So advanced ticket reservation opened on September 1st through our virtual store for the in-person festival, and advanced reservation was communicated through all of our strategies as being required to attend the event. We set our reservations at approximately 2,000 total people, about 1,500 ticketed purchases per day. That's about a third of our 2019 capacity, which is one of our busier years of the festival. I can report to you that as of earlier today, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of the Thanksgiving Festival is currently sold out. There are a couple hundred remaining tickets for Friday, and that's it. Of course, this is all hosted through our virtual storefront. We utilize a service that's built in Ontario for Ontario market farmers and food hubs called Local Line. And that's a storefront that is what you experience at thanksgivingfestival.ca. All of our terms and conditions related to the festival are listed at our point of sale, and we've been very strategic in listing a very complete, frequently asked questions page on our website as well. We're applying our regular daily admission rate into the Thanksgiving Festival that we see as board-approved rates for admission into the parks. And upon arrival to the festival, folks will have to provide proof of purchase and identification, and will receive a wristband as proof of entry, and allows us to monitor our capacity on the grounds visually as well. We were previously anticipating walk-ins to the festival, about 200 to 500 people per day, but now that we've reached capacity for 3 of the 4 days, we will no longer be able to do so. We have 50 out of 50 in-person market vendors filled in our artisan and craft section. We also have a farmers market, of course, that we know and love at the Thanksgiving Festival, and several community partners will be represented throughout the weekend as well. We also have some exceptional Heritage Village programming, including advanced reservation guided tours through our buildings, historical demos, including blacksmithing, carving, spinning, and the operation of our grist mill, of course. We won't be grinding any wheat, but we will have the griststones and the bolter functioning. Antique Power, of course, will be here with their steam engines. We'll have kids out fishing, running their casting and fly fishing demos, and of course, our beautiful photo displays, vignettes, and selfie stations across the festival. We also will have some modified main stage entertainment, including children's programming from Calvin's Magic, Kids Out, and Scoop McCoy, who's a popular local magician and illusionist. And our entertainment's been lined up by Country 89 and Giant FM, to whom we're very fortunate to be working with to support local artists and acoustic entertainers. We'll also have a small number of concession vendors. Typically, we see about 20 food concessions and drink concessions. We're going to see about 7 food concessions and about 5 drink concessions at our festival, representing the best local festival food and craft breweries, wineries, and craft cocktails that we know and love here in Niagara. Of course, health and safety is very important to us. We know that outdoor events and festivals are permitted, so we've taken some additional steps to ensure the health and safety of our vendors, volunteers, visitors, and staff, including distanced booths, ground markings, and required public health unit signage. We also have limited indoor components. In fact, all festival elements will be outdoor. So we'll be providing washroom facilities, access to the CFC for product pickup here, as well as the big barn will be provided access for a volunteer space, as well as for our prepared food vendors to store their refrigerated items. Vaccination status of our visitors is not required at this time as per legislation and in consultation with Town of Lincoln bylaw officers and emergency risk management team. And of course, we'll be providing personal protective equipment to all of our staff and volunteers as required. We've taken on a hyperlocal watershed-based communications approach with our media release coming out about a week into our virtual lit posting. We have a Facebook event listing, a digital campaign hosted through Post Media, as well as targeted social media campaigns and direct consumer weekly mailing lists through Local Line, our virtual platform. We also have some fantastic radio slots across the watershed that you may have heard this week, and some really excellent posts about our vendors through our Facebook. And we've provided some social media friendly visuals and collateral for our vendors to share to advertise for us. So we're regularly updating and sharing more information at our website, thanksgivingfestival.ca. If you haven't already, feel free to take a look at the website and what we have contained there. And we hope to see you at the festival as well. Some things to consider as we move forward is undertaking a decolonizing approach to NPCA programs and events. And that means being reconciliatory in everything that we do and recognizing the nature of this festival as being representative of the Niagara watershed, but also representative of our diverse and long-standing and complex history on this site, outside of, above, beyond, and before settlement. So wanted to bring that to this group for your consideration, and I think something that I'd love to share with you in the future with regards to our programming and events at the NPCA. So open to any questions that the group may have through you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alicia. Sorry, just have things happening in the background as what happens. This looks amazing. I wish I had an opportunity to sign up for it. I'm kind of looking at this and going, oh, okay, next year for sure, for sure. That's wonderful. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this amazing festival? Yes, Dion, please go ahead.
Hi, through you, Chair. Well, I'm excited to see that all of that is going on in spite of the pandemic. I was wondering, the virtual festival, is that something that will be kept every year going forward?
That's an excellent question through you, Chair. We have seen some really great uptake from our vendors through the virtual festival and the virtual platform, but I think everyone really just wants to be back in person. So certainly something that will go out to our vendors and survey them and see what their interest level is. It's been a pleasure working with a Made in Ontario e-commerce solution that's fit for marketplaces and farmers and local vendors. But yeah, I think it was a response to the pandemic last year and something we carried forward this year. And there were some vendors, as I mentioned, that only wanted to go online. They weren't comfortable coming out or they didn't have the inventory for in-person. But I'm hopeful that we're able to continue with some of our technological innovations as well as get back to the festival that we know and love in 2022.
Thank you. Dion, any other questions? No? Anyone else? Oh, okay, well, thank you very much, Alicia. It looks like it's going to be amazing. So fingers crossed the weather will behave, but people always enjoy it. I've had so much feedback where it's like, they've come away and they've said, well, yeah, the weather was a bit iffy, but really had a good time. So I think that's kind of a secondary factor when it comes down to it. That's awesome. Okay, on to the paperwork for us. I am going to ask Dion to move that we accept this presentation, that it be received, and I'll ask that Harry second it. Okay, thank you. And no one's opposed? Seeing none? Okay, great. So we have received the presentation regarding the Balls Falls 2021 festival. Thank you again to Alicia. Okay, moving on. We're looking at item 6, delegations. I don't believe there are any. Item 7, consent items. Again, I don't believe there are any. On to discussion items, which is item 8. So we have a MPCA pollinator initiative report, and Carrie Royer, Carrie's with us, right? Carrie, you here? There you are.
I'm here, yes.
I just wanted to make sure before I hand it over. Carrie's going to share a bit of background on the pollinator initiatives report with respect to the work of the MPCA. Please go ahead, Carrie.
Sure, thank you, Chair Oblak. I've been having some issues with my camera lately, so I'm just going to leave it off in the meantime and hope that my Wi-Fi cooperates better that way anyways. So at the July 16th NPCA Board of Directors meeting, a motion was passed for the provision of native plants to support pollinator species and to see support to advance collaboration on pollinator initiatives. So this report was put together to inform the Public Advisory Committee about those, about the motion that was passed and about the initiatives that the NPCA is currently doing, and that the members of the PAC are going to be encouraged to leverage these initiatives as appropriate to advance the use of native plants and other projects that support pollinating species in our watershed. So happy to answer any questions. Some of the initiatives, just to give a brief overview of the report, include things like we only use native plants in our current restoration program. We always encourage the use of native plants in any development and permit processes and approvals. And we have actually a pollinator specific initiative known as the Mickey DeFrugio and Family Legacy Pollinator Project, where we do at least 2, sometimes 3 pollinator gardens in area municipalities or in other public space every year. And this initiative has been going on since 2017. So this year we planted a pollinator garden in Haldimand at the La Fortune Park, and we also planted one in St. Catharines along the Terry Fox Trail. And these programs are great because they are typically a collaboration between the NPCA and then a community group, a local champion, as well as with our municipal partners. So in this case, it was the city of St. Catharines and Haldimand County, and then some community groups, the Friends of Lafourtune Park, who kind of champion the garden and take it on and take care of it. And in the case of the Terry Fox Trail, it was the Friends of Fitzgerald Neighbors. So really a collaborative effort to kind of move forward some of these initiatives. And that's why we're looking to the Public Advisory Committee today to sort of endorse this and let us know if there's any opportunities that you're aware of to collaborate on this further.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carrie. It sounds like an amazing initiative. My mind is spinning now because I'm thinking of a number of things that we might be able to tie this into just locally where I am. I know that even with the amount of development that's happening, that there may be opportunities to tie that into some of the greening initiatives that come along with that. Okay, anyone with questions? John Aaron has a question.
Yeah, not so much a question, but you know, when I look at the resolution, there's 4 recommendations, and I'm wondering if PAC would consider adding a 5th recommendation that encourages the development industry to use native plants and create pollination gardens or plantings throughout the development approval process. I mean, every subdivision generally includes a stormwater management facility. We create vegetation protection zones around woodlands. We create buffers. We create landscape strips. And, you know, there's a myriad of opportunities available for conservation authority staff to be very proactive when they review these development applications and you know, to require the planting of pollination friendly plants to support you know, this very important component. So I'm wondering if we could go a step further and to include direct reference to the development industry to require the further implementation of these initiatives.
Thank you, John. Carrie, would you like to respond?
Through you, Chair, I can respond unless Chandra wanted to take that one.
Chandra?
Thank you, Carrie. Through you, Chair Oblak. That's a wonderful suggestion. Carrie, remind me, I think, John, in the memo itself, one of the recommendation was drafted to encourage this type of activity through the planning process. And I have internally, we have at the NPCA, we're trying to do that. Carrie, can you, I don't have the report handy right in front of me. Maybe you can read while I'm talking.
I'll pull it up and while you're talking for sure.
Yeah. And the other thing I should say is one of the recommendation was to share it with other conservation authority. And I'm really pleased to report that this memo went to Conservation Ontario, and through that it was circulated to all of the CAOs, and several conservation authorities have now put it on their board agendas, and they're hoping that through their development process they can encourage developers to do that. John, one thing I would encourage here in Niagara, if there is a forum of development industry where we can go and do an educational presentation. Carrie has a list of species and we can show how these pollinator gardens have worked in other areas. We would look for those opportunities. And if Carrie can check the resolution, I'm 100% sure we had something to that effect. If not, happy to take that as a staff direction, if you like. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, CEO Sharma. Harry, did you have something to add?
It's in number 2, but it's not. I believe it could probably be better worded in the sense that it really only promotes that the partner municipalities advance the use of pollinator plant species to promote pollinator habitat through projects on their lands, on their own lands, as well through planning and development processes. But I think you probably could go a little further, that they explicitly engage the development community on that front. And I think that's what John was getting at. And I would support a little more forceful wording on that front, and I think it's reflective of the collaborative approach in the development world on that in that area, because they're going to be planting something there anyway, so you might as well plant things that would assist this endeavor, right?
Thank you, Harry. CEO Sharma, would you like to respond then?
Yes, and like I said, I think it's in the whereas is because I helped Member Woodhouse write the memo. I have this thing in
I'm
my
still
mind.
trying to pull it up. My computer's not cooperating. I have the agenda up, but it's just loading still. So
Yeah, it's in the
bear with
whereas,
me.
but what I can say is, John, yes, our staff are starting to do that. We have posted the guidelines in a central location, and we're also working on a procedural manual along with the NPCA planning policy updates. And in the procedural manual, we will have details of what should be planted and where, and we totally intend to have this. I can take your recommendation back, but if you like to make a motion on this or amend this, then I'm happy to take that direction as well. But Carrie, can you read the whereases? It's in here somewhere, I remember.
Yep, I have it pulled out now. So do you want me to read the whole motion or just the where?
It's the last whereas.
Yeah,
and whereas the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority is committed to maintaining and enhancing pollinator habitat through its enhanced restoration and stewardship programs, community partnerships, as well as advising land development proponents through planning and development processes.
There it is, yeah.
Okay.
Is it enough, John, or and my response for you?
Yeah, advising land development proponents, I guess, is a polite way of asking them. And like Harry suggested, I was looking for a little bit more of a requirement as opposed to simply asking them, could you please plant this? I mean, it should be a priority for us to do it and implement it. So I'm just suggesting, whether it's a staff direction or a change to the resolution, just, to add some teeth to it and make it more of a requirement.
I'm happy to take either.
Okay, may I make a suggestion here is that this does seem to be something that should be pulled up. It's might get lost as the last whereas. So if it's brought forward either, to the front of the whereases, so to speak, or if it is isolated, separated as being a different item, which do you think would work better, Shauna?
Chair Black, I think it will be a good idea to just amend the recommendation to add John's suggestion, and vote on the amended motion and receive it. So, in the report, you have two recommendations. Carrie can read the two recommendation, and there could be a third recommendation, which is your amended motion then. And the third recommendation, John can suggest the language he likes, and then Grant can just document the whole resolution, and then that's the most resolution you will pass with those recommendations.
Okay, and I see something from Joe. Joe, I know you're there. One moment, please. I'll see if I can pull up the chat.
I can pull up the chat for you, Jackie. Joe just said many agricultural crops contribute to the well-being of pollinators as well. I would support John's motion.
Excellent. Okay, so shall we add a third?
Do you want me to read the existing recommendation as it is, and then we can add to it if we'd like? Terry, you have something to say?
I think what we need is just a little more forceful language, as opposed to just as well as advising. I mean, in the process, there's requirements in the development process, right? What you're going to do with around your stormwater ponds, if there's any requirements for landscaping or whatnot. So, can the NPCA require that any situations that come up where there's engagement in this process, that any developments will be pollinator friendly in the sense that, or will accord with the guidelines for this. I think the wording needs to be stronger. That's my concern. I'm just not sure what NPCA can, to what extent you can go there.
I think what I suggest to Chair you, Oblak, we can add the third recommendation and further that NPCA require where feasible. I mean, John knows this, it cannot happen everywhere, John.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, so require where feasible through the development process, planting of, native pollinator species or something like that. And then we will take that recommendation, share with staff, and through our planning process, see where we can. We already do that, but it makes it stronger. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd be more than happy to support that as a additional recommendation.
Okay, moved by member Arians then, and seconded by member Shaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Grant, can you put together that third point that we'll add to this?
Doing it as we speak. Chandra, you had mentioned a seconder.
The seconder was member Schoenberg.
Okay, so in addition to the first two, which we'll have to vote on as well, I have, and that the PAC requests that the NPCA require, where feasible, through the development process, the planting of native pollinator species.
Can we just amend that slightly, Grant, to say that to plant native plants that support pollinator species, because you can't plant pollinators.
Okay.
Can we modify that? Can I just make a suggestion on something that might be a bit stronger, as opposed to saying we're feasible? Can we turn that around a bit and say that these native species, pollinator species will be, I'm thinking, will be planted unless otherwise agreed upon, or so. I'm trying to think of the exact wording, but you're turning it around so that it's not quite as easy for the developer to say, sorry, that's not feasible, which just is kind of a blanket thing. Oh, they said it's not feasible. So it is more turning it around to say that this will be done unless you're given an exemption. CEO Sharma.
So Chair Black, how the developers takes it will depend on the language in the permit or the restoration plan. What this resolution does is directing staff to use it. So to give you an example, if we have a planning file where somebody's planting on the slope, there is a certain species of fast-growing trees that need to go on the slope. So I mean, so those, the ecologists will have to see where the requirements are the best. So it gives staff some flexibility to recommend appropriate species for appropriate site locations. But what staff put in the permit is what the development industry does. So that's the language in the permit. Just wanted to clarify. Yeah.
Thank you. Just looking for something that does, I know that I've dealt with wherever it's feasible before, and people just throw up their hands and say, well, it's not feasible. And, there's no rhyme or reason. So if there's a way that we can tighten it up, then that would certainly.
This is my job really, and in making sure staff have the right tools and resources, and in also making sure it's embedded in our procedural manual and the documents we develop, so it becomes it's firmly grounded or planted in our procedures to allow staff to do that. But I think this probably the direction we are giving today will help. I think there's another chat in the chat box, Natalie.
Yes, from Natalie. Work with developers and property owners to include more pollinator-friendly plantings and design. Yes.
I was just looking at options, just seeing, because I think City of Toronto, some of the other municipalities have some language. I was just looking to see how it compared and maybe what's working.
That's a good idea. Why reinvent the wheel? I know that Toronto has been very active in this, trying to
Yeah, and not to copy them directly. I was just for ideas. That's all, to help maybe.
yes. Okay, well,
Natalie, is there a language you want to suggest for this motion
Well, I think if it's directed to staff, then maybe the language just speaks to working with developers and looking for opportunities. Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah.
It shows intent.
That's right. It shows intent, and then it's up to staff sort of to evaluate based on the situation. They'll know the areas best, right, that they're working with them.
So, I mean, you can replace the word as feasible, because if that word kind of confuses people, just say direct staff to look for opportunities, and the rest of the motion to work with developers. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. How does that sound, John and Harry? You're good
I'm
with
fine
that?
with that.
Okay,
I'm fine with that as well, thanks.
thank you. Okay, Grant, we've just thrown 50 things at you.
Okay. Okay, so I have as a third, we'll see whether we've got this right, that the PAC requests that the NPCA identify areas through the development process where the planting of vegetation, or for the planting of vegetation that supports pollinator species.
Well, this really means that we are looking for opportunities to do planting. I mean, the intent is different of what the motion was supposed to say, was that we require, as part of the development process. John, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So basically, it can read that the PAC recommends or requires or recommends NPCA staff to look for opportunities for planting of, to look for opportunities for planting of pollinator species through the development review process or development planning process. Will that be?
As part of the development process?
Yeah. Now, if you leave the language with me when Grant is doing the minutes, you have to trust me. I'll get it right. But I will not use the word feasible in there.
Okay.
Or can redraft
Oh.
and send it to us. Sorry.
Sorry, Jackie. I did just notice that John Musso joined us as well, and he just had a message in the chat that he agreed with the above wording that I think Natalie had put in. So just
thank you.
Well, I didn't know if you saw that in the chat. Sorry, Harry, go ahead.
No, I was, why don't we simplify the motion and just motion that we leave it to the executive director to finalize the wording with the intent of promoting and directing as much as possible within the resolution, the development world to plant appropriated pollinating species or pollinator friendly species in the process. And because really this is a direction to staff, and ultimately that falls, on a day-to-day basis, it will fall with the director to determine how that will play out, right?
Okay. So as long as with our third point that we are including the intent and that the actual wording will be determined by CAO Sharma.
Yeah,
Is that okay? And that the intent is, as Harry said, to have pollinator-friendly species included in the landscape designs of new developments. That's okay, Frank?
The only language I would also change there is direct to advise, because I think it's more of a clerical thing, Grant. I think the board directs and the advisory committee advises.
Absolutely. I had requests in there if you
Yes,
remember what
My
I mean.
apologies.
that's okay. I can take direction from you. Absolutely.
I would just say if there's is it all contentious that we just circulate the wording to the members before we include it in the final minutes?
But I will ask members, do you find that it's necessary to hear the actual or to see the actual wording prior to it being included? Or are you happy with our intent? I guess what I'll do is ask everyone in favor of leaving the wording, and sorry, let me make this clear. Everyone in favor of not seeing the wording, the final wording, and leaving it to CAO as she understands our intent. Is that clear? Okay. Dion, you're with us?
Yes, I am.
You're okay with that?
Erica agreed in the chat as well, Jackie.
Thank you. I'm glad you're watching the chat. I'm sorry, guys. I'm being very linear here. I forget about the chat sometimes.
Joe as well.
Thank you, folks. Okay, good. So we've identified the intent, and we will request that CAO Sharma come up with the final wording. Okay. Harry?
Sorry, just
No, go ahead.
so we received this report to us. It's regarding NPCA pollinator initiatives. There's a recommendation that's been made. We're simply saying we accept the recommendation and ask that the resolution in the process be furthered by additional language to require as much as possible, as opposed to promote only pollinator friendly plantings and whatnot, right? This isn't our motion, right? This isn't our resolution. Do I have this wrong? This was Member Woodhouse and Member Brady's resolution that we're simply receiving, and now we're making a comment on, correct?
CAO Sharma.
Yes, you are receiving the motion. You're making a comment, but you are also making a recommendation to the motion, because the motion is presented to you in a staff report with staff recommendations that the PAC receives it and encourages, through their network. So what you are doing is amending that recommendation to add another. We're
actually requesting that it be amended. We're not amending it, right?
You could do either. You could do either.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if we have authority to are we then we're not, are we amending it, or we're passing our own motion then? Instead, in lieu of this, we're saying, don't go with this. Here's our motion. Here's the wording for it. I don't want to get too technical, but I think I'm content simply to say that we accept this subject to the following proposed amendments for the purposes of NPCA carrying out its obligations, right? And we leave that to you to wordsmith and so that it properly instructs your staff.
Can I intercede here just on process, Jackie? Harry's absolutely right. It's already a motion that's in place. All this group is doing is putting a suggestion in for that motion to be added to, and the board will make that decision. And I'm sure that they will follow this committee's advice. But Harry's absolutely right with the process.
And
thank you, Chair.
to further that, you need to adopt the recommendations in the report that are numbered 1 and 2. And then your third item is the direction to Chandra, or the recommendation that you're requesting. If you're correct in saying that as well, requesting the further action.
requesting. Okay, are we clear on process?
If this is John's motion, so if he's good with it, I guess we can move forward.
I'm good with it. It's a great approach.
Good. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. It's always a bit of a challenge to identify what the right process is to carry forward something. Okay, so we are, if there aren't any more comments, let me check chat again, so that I'm not excluding anyone, and I've just done something funky with the chat. Okay.
You're all set with the chat, Jackie.
Thank you. I pulled up something else and I don't know what that is. Okay, thank you. So we will move forward then with our reports. We have, okay, 2 recommendations to put forward. So we have recommendation PAC 25, 2021. I will ask that Erica move this and that Dion second it. Any opposed? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move forward. That is to, okay, sorry. That is to say that the report has been received, going on to number 2. Further, that members of the Public Advisory Committee promote planting of the pollinator habitat through their networks and collaborate with NPCA to advance the planting. Okay, so we have our second recommendation, PAC 26, 2021. I will ask John Musso, actually John Ahrens, you've been right involved with this. So John Ahrens, if I could have you move, and John Musso, I'll ask that you second. And with the third now, please go ahead, Harry.
Well, can we not, we're wrapping all these together, are we not?
I believe they still have to be separated out because they're.
Well, we have the report here. We're accepting recommendation 1, recommendation 2, and agreeing that a resolution as presented is accepted subject to an amendment, or a recommended an amendment by us, right? I think it can all be captured in one simple motion by just tying it back to the document that we have in front of us.
Okay. Brad?
Yes, I think you simply need to vote on recommendations 1 and 2, and the third one, I think you've already decided upon the direction that Chandra will come up with subsequently. So I think if you move those recommendations 1 and 2, you're good to go on to the next item.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'll move if necessary.
Okay. I believe that we're set on that item then. Brad?
Yes.
We're good. Okay, thank you. Okay. Now we also have the committee discussion paper that is based on our discussions from last winter, and that did come forward. My apologies that I was not here for our last meeting. COVID being what it was, my daughter decided she would get married suddenly. Suddenly, but not suddenly. She just chose the date suddenly. Let's put it that way. So I do apologize that has put that item off. Just to take us back, because it has been a while, these were basically comments regarding what we saw as being issues that we would like to take forward to the board. You know, two key issues from our various sectors. We took the basic points from both our discussions and from anything that was submitted after the fact in writing, and put them into that report. And I certainly had some modifications from member comments that were added as well. And so that was what you did see in June, trying to think back, and now this is coming forward again for discussion to begin with. Thank you, Brenda, very much for joining us as always, and for all your wisdom to carry us through. Have a good evening at your other meetings.
I'm sorry, folks. I've got to go to my other meetings now, but great work so far. Thank you so much, and we'll make sure to take all your suggestions to the board with a lot of gusto, because I'm sure there wouldn't be any problems with them accepting your input. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, so are there any comments or questions regarding that report? And yes, Dion.
Yes. So I just had one query actually. The document that was sent around regarding that discussion paper. I had sent some updates in June, which aren't reflected in this document that was
My apologies.
sent around here.
I wonder if I distributed the wrong one.
So
Okay.
So yeah, I would just ask that you just verify which draft is actually attached, just in case there were any additional comments from any other members that are reflected.
Yes, definitely. If this is something that simple, then we'll make sure that the things are incorporated. It might just have been that it, you know, got pulled up because we have had a few different drafts. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the best thing to do in that case, instead of playing about with it now, is that I will go back and find your comments and ensure that they are incorporated. I imagine they are, and as I say, it's just a matter of finding the next draft to it.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it back again. I'm trying to think when our next meeting is. I think it's November, Carrie.
Jackie, I have a the version that I have, I think might have Dion's updated comments. Do you want me to share my screen?
If you could, please. If I start pulling things up, my computer might just die.
Well, mine might too. So Dion, is it this your
Yeah.
communication and cost access version?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I just wanted to point out, I think Natalie, they pretty much did a good job in incorporating some of those ideas in their connecting people to nature.
Absolutely.
And I think she did a better job of articulating it, if I may say so. So I was happy to see that, but I just wanted to ensure that if there were any additional comments from any other members, then it wasn't left behind in a separate draft.
Thank you, Dion.
Yep.
Okay, then we do have this. It's my apologies. I don't know why this draft is attached. Unfortunately, it's just the wrong one. We do have the proper one. Dion, are you comfortable then with us taking this forward? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Apologies on that, and thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. This can easily happen, unfortunately, sometimes as I say, with multiple drafts. Any other comments, questions? This really is just a preliminary document with the intent of just saying to the board, I don't think there's any real surprises here, you know, with issues that we've identified, but it does say to the board that, you know, we're out in the community, we're bringing this information to you. And I think that, you know, this is just the beginning of a process on perhaps guiding some of our discussions as well in the future, just to identify what some of the issues really are. And I mean, I'm just taking a look at what Carrie has shared, and I can see that there's sustainable development that was showing up there. So that's been part of our discussion, you know, a few minutes ago on the pollinator species. So you can see that, that certainly there'll be some tie-ins over time. Okay, let me pull up my agenda again and bear with me, please. Oh, good, I lost it. This agenda. Okay, so if we are comfortable with that, then I will ask for motioner and seconders. We'll go to the list, and Joe, I'll ask that you move. And Erica, I'd ask that you second accepting this discussion paper as is for approval.
Yes.
Thank you. Any opposed? Now, the second part of this is for direction. Again, process Grant, please jump in if I'm doing this wrong, but the process is, what do we do with this paper after, now that it's been approved? I would like to take it to the board and say, okay, you know, as we discussed previously, we're the Public Advisory Committee. Here's what we're hearing. Harry?
My understanding is everything we do here goes to the board, right? We're an advisory board, public advisory board to the board. So they get our reports. This would be presented to them, and they would receive it, and we're making recommendations within it. So maybe Carrie can speak to that, but that would be my understanding. I don't think we need to do anything more other than put it in our records, and the board then will take it.
Sorry, may I interject? What I've got is a motion moved by Joe, seconded by Erica, that the revised version as presented at the meeting by Kay Royer be received and approved for submission to the board.
Yep.
Okay. And we're happy. My concern is that a lot of the time the board receives 300 pages of information, you know, multiple reports, etc. And that it will just be another piece of paper that may not really get any attention. I can take it to the board if you would like, and that way it does get a bit more attention, and we can have, if you know, I can respond to questions, etc. If you would prefer, then yeah, we'll just leave it. And it can go ahead in the package with everything else. So again, I guess I'll put it forward. Would you like this to go forward in the package as is? All those four going forward? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Hi, John. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll have that included in the package, and hopefully the board will read it. Great. Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to see if I can find.
Chair Black, this is Chandra.
Oh, go ahead, Chandra.
So I just wanted to offer this opportunity. It will go in the package as your minutes with the resolution. And if you would like to attend that meeting, when it goes to the meeting, to be there to answer any questions, Chair Johnson can mention that Chair Black is attending the meeting and she can take any questions. Like, that opportunity is there for you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'll probably take you up on that. Thank you very much. We can touch base later. Okay.
Grant, sorry, this wouldn't go to the October meeting because we're past deadline, so it would be the November meeting. Is that correct?
I do have it noted on our agenda. We'll do the best efforts to get this in and circulated as a part of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And Jackie, if I may, before we adjourn, I think unless there's something else, I should have done this much earlier in the meeting, but I did want to introduce Rebecca Hull to the Public Advisory Committee. I meant to do it before I started speaking to the pollinator initiatives. Rebecca is the manager of strategic business planning and public relations. Some of you may have seen Renee on our meetings prior to this. Renee is on a maternity leave. And so Rebecca is filling in as my manager and taking on some responsibilities with respect to strategic business planning. So I just thought Rebecca might just want to say hello in case anyone was wondering who the other person was in the room.
Welcome, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. We may meet in person one day, who knows? Thank you. Okay, thanks, Carrie. Well, we don't have committee reports. Any new business? No new business? No, seeing none. We will move forward with adjournment, and I will ask that Dion move for adjournment and Natalie second. All good? Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for, I was going to say coming this evening, but attending this evening, whatever it is we do. And we shall see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night. Thanks, Carrie.
Sorry. Thanks, Jackie. Great job tonight. You did great. Not rusty at all. Oh, she's already gone.